Hey friends, welcome back to the Daily Dose. We're hitting you with day number 187 today, 187. We're just moving right along, continuing in the book of Ezekiel. We've got Ezekiel chapter 5 through 8 today, and we've also got Psalm 32 on the side. So let's jump right in and see what we have got going on in the summary for today. So the first topic is a section on God's razor of judgment. Okay, and just starting off right at the beginning of chapter 5, I'm going to read a few verses. It says, "Now, son of man," and this is God speaking to Ezekiel, "take a sharp sword and use it as a barber's razor to shave your head and your beard. Then take a set of scales, divide up the hair. When the days of your siege come to an end, burn a third of the hair inside the city. Take a third and strike it with the sword all around the city, and scatter a third to the wind, for I will pursue them with drawn sword. But take a few hairs and tuck them away in the folds of your garment. Again, take a few of these and throw them into the fire and burn them up. A fire will spread from there to all Israel." So, this is very interesting, and this is another one of those times where God has Ezekiel kind of act out a prophecy, sort of, right? The next section talks about doom for the mountains of Israel. And this part starts out in chapter 6, and the first few verses go like this. "The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, set your face against the mountains of Israel. Prophesy against them, and say, you mountains of Israel, hear the word of the sovereign Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says to the mountains and hills, to the ravines and the valleys. I am about to bring a sword against you, and I will destroy your high places. Your altars will be demolished, your incense altars will be smashed, and I will slay your people in front of your idols. I will lay the dead bodies of the Israelites in front of their idols, and I will scatter your bones around the altars. Wherever you live, the towns will be laid waste, and the high places demolished, so that your altars will be laid waste and devastated, your idols smashed and ruined, your incense altars broken down, and what you have made wiped out. Your people will fall slain among you, and you will know that I am the Lord." We've just got a couple more divisions in today's reading, and the next one is about the end and about how the end has come. And it says, "The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, this is what the sovereign Lord says to the land of Israel. The end has come upon the four corners of the land. The end is now upon you. I will unleash my anger against you. I will judge you accordingly to your conduct and repay you for all your detestable practices. I will not look on you with pity. I will not spare you. I will surely repay you for the conduct and the detestable practices among you. Then you will know that I am the Lord." Notice we've got a little bit of repetition going on here. There's a number of places in Ezekiel in particular where God speaks about how he's going to do something. He prophesies about it in advance, and then he says, "And then you will know that I am the Lord." The last little section in today's reading starts off at the beginning of chapter 8, and this has to do with idolatry in the actual temple. So if you remember, the temple was a place where God was to be worshipped. It was a sacred place. It was a holy place. It was a place that was set apart and dedicated to God and to the worship of God. And for idolatry to be taking place inside the temple, the holy place of God and the worship of God, it seems like, hey, how can it be any worse than that? Idolatry being committed in the actual temple, right? So I'll go ahead and read a handful of verses here from the beginning of chapter 8. It says, "In the 6th year, in the 6th month, and on the 5th day, while I was sitting in my house, and the elders of Judah were sitting before me, the hand of the sovereign Lord came to me there. I looked, and I saw a figure like that of a man. From what appeared to be his waist down, he was like fire, and from there up his appearance was as bright as glowing metal." Just picture that, right? You've got what appears to be a person, right? And from the waist down, it's just like fire, just flaming, and I don't know. I just try to picture somebody who's wearing a pair of pants or some sort of a gown or an apron, and it's just blazing on fire, right? And then from the waist up, it looks like glowing metal. Have you ever seen glowing metal? It depending on how hot it gets, first when it starts to glow, it glows kind of a dark red, right? And then as it gets hotter, it starts to glow more of an orange color, and then more of a bright orange. And eventually, if it gets heated up enough, depending on the kind of metal, it can actually glow almost like a brilliant white. So I'm not sure exactly what color of glowing metal, but I tend to think something along the brighter end, right? I picture this as something like bright orange, bright yellow, possibly even just like a gleaming white. So from there it says, he stretched out what looked like a hand and took me by the hair of my head. The Spirit lifted me up between earth and heaven, and in visions of God he took me to Jerusalem, to the entrance of the north gate of the inner court, where the idol that provokes to jealousy stood. And there before me was the glory of the God of Israel, as in the vision I had seen in the plain. Now it goes on from there, and each of these little sections that I just read from, it's kind of designed to be a teaser, right? I didn't really get into a whole lot of elaborate detail. There's a lot more to be learned, a lot more to be read. So I encourage y'all to dig in. You can learn a little bit more about the situation with God's razor of judgment, doom for the mountains of Israel, and this last thing that we spoke about, this idolatry in the temple, right? There's more to be gleaned from the scriptures. So I encourage y'all to dive in and check it out for yourself. See how the Lord speaks to you. Anyways, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for your time. Appreciate y'all. And until we meet again, deuces.